Welcome back to the Pre-Vetted podcast, where we spotlight extraordinary people and remarkable talent reshaping our world. Today, I am joined by Muhammad Atif. He's CTO and president of PureLogics, a digital product development agency he co-founded back in 2006 with a mission to turn ideas into reality. Over nearly 2 decades, Muhammad has helped build over 1,200 products for clients across 30 countries with a team of 400 plus engineers and more than 400,000 development hours delivered for startups, SMBs, and enterprises alike. Muhammad, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be on the show, Federico.
I'm honored to have you here today.
Same here.
So, for people meeting you for the first time, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, so as you already explained, my name is Mohammad Atif. I'm the founder, CTO, and president at PureLogics LLC. I started this venture about 2 decades ago with my two other peers. We started with 3 people. Now we are a global company with 500 plus engineers. We are headquartered here in New York City. In simple word, we do the custom software development. If I talk about industry, we are doing a lot of work in healthcare industry, edtech, and a bit of work in fintech as well. We are ISO 9001 2015 certified. Like we have standard processes throughout the organization, and we are CMMI Level 2 appraised, which means that we have pretty well-defined processes, SOPs for delivering the quality software applications. And the idea behind was that, Federico, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders, they struggle to find the right engineering partner who can take their idea, who can understand their like what they're looking for to help them build the right MVP and then supporting them in all the future phases so they can grow. And during this journey, we have the customer who are working with us from past 2 decades as well. We started with them with very small idea and it has now grown up to a full grown business operational stuff and added a lot of value on both sides.
Oh, wow. So you accompanied from being a startup to now scaling the company.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we work as an engineering partner with them. We help them to digitize digital transformation, to walk them through like all their experience. And nowadays we help them with AI workflow automations and making sure that they are adopting the AI in a right way.
Right. Amazing. And you started as a software engineer and now you became a founder, right? What made you take that leap?
Yep. I started back in 2005 after graduation as a software engineer. I know I started working in .NET at that time, Visual Basic .NET. Back in 2006, when I saw first time .NET released AJAX, which can like make asynchronous call, I was really amazed to see that the page is not refreshing and all that. And now where we are. So it has been great journey. The core engineering thing, the innovation thing has always been part of the journey to keep exploring, to see, okay, what are the trends and how we can adopt that to make the life easier and to solve the problems.
Amazing. And how do you work in terms of quality on how do you build software? How do you keep the quality on the software you build for your clients?
Yeah, so I think the quality starts from the day ones. Whenever we onboard a customer, we try to have some pre-onboarding calls with our customer. We try to understand their pain points. We try to document each and every step. And then we have solid team of product owners and solution architect who design a complete solution. And after that, once we onboard any application or any project, we follow agile practices where we try to have daily stand-up meetings. We try to have like sprint planning, sprint retro, and also we try to make sure that the goals that we have defined for each sprint, they are being met. And we try to control the quality communication gap on time. And that is one of the reasons that we are able to deliver quality application. And as I mentioned at the start of this conversation, we are ISO certified as well, and we are CMM level 2 appraised. So we have a PMO department, project management, operational department, who runs the internal audits of teams. Like all the projects that we are working, they can pick up any project at any time, and they can do the audit in terms of like how well they are managing their project management tool, how well they are writing, managing their like GitHub repository or Bitbucket repository. And along with those like PMO audit checklist, we also have like some code reviews, some automation flows. which tells us about the quality of the code or the output that is being generated. So there are like different like check and balancing and audit processes that we have in place along with Agile, ISO, and CMMI to ensure that we deliver the quality and how do we stand out among the crowd.
Right. Because I think quality is one of the key issues with remote teams and outside custom
The time
software development
zone.
companies, right? The
Yeah.
time zone, right?
Yeah. And this is where the Agile comes in process. And this is where I'm telling that we try to bond with the client from the day one. We try to document everything and then we follow Agile very recursively to ensure that we are not missing any data point and we have real-time feedback. It's not something that we take an application for 6 months and then after 6 months we are giving some demos to the customer and customer is surprised, what is this? So it's day-to-day interaction. So we build, we show to the customer, take feedback, and move on. So they know that what they are building, and it's built according to their expectations.
Right. Yeah, I've been coding for many years, and it took me a while I was this old when I realized that I used to be more focused on the quality of the code, right? Oh, my code is beautiful. It does, on the technical side, right? And then I realized that matters, but what matters most is to be able to deliver value to the user, right? So understanding what is the expected behavior, being able to put that into automated tests, and then making sure that we're building something that is going to provide value to the user, right? What's in it for the user, right? Once I understood that, then I've been able to work better with product owners, right? To kind of make sure that what we're building would make sense for them, right?
Yeah. And I think another challenge that I have seen, Federico, that if you are trying to build an application where you don't take care about technical debt, I mean, that is another major issue. And technical debt can be part of the application due to different reason. I mean, it can be due to the business pressure that we have to launch it as soon as possible. It can be due to the poor planning or prioritization. It can be due to poorly written code. It can be due to legacy issues that we are using old version of Python or Java or .NET or any outdated library. It can also be due to the lack of technical documentation that we have key documentation missing and if new team members are joining or if they are leaving, so we don't have any base that we can set as a base. And then the lack of automation. So these are the things that I have seen over the time. And then there comes a stage that when the customer says that or the tech team says that we have to rebuild this application, we can't further maintain or support this application. So this is very important aspect. You can't eliminate tech debt, but you can minimize, you can manage it. And there are practices that a company can follow through that they can manage the technical debt. So if you are you really want to manage the quality over the time, tech debt is another area beside communication, agile and everything that needs to be managed to ensure that we have a stable application on the day end.
Right. I completely agree. I think that sometimes we measure tech debt on terms of test coverage. Oh, we have low test coverage, then we have a lot of tech debt, which in part it is true, but I think that we're measuring the wrong thing there because test coverage is on a line by line of the code, right? But or we can have a green light on the release, but are we testing the right things? Are we actually testing what is the expected behavior of the application, right? So I usually use this example of, you go to the ATM, you ask for cash, you want cash, right? If there has a little bug or there are non-critical issues, they become less relevant to do I have the cash or not, right? Being able to test the right things becomes much more important. And I work on these projects where we had this both unreliable CI where, sometimes it's green, sometimes it's red, and we don't know why. And we have all these tests that we're testing. And when you start reading them, you realize we're not testing the expected behavior of the application, right? What the user expects from the application. Kind of refactoring all that to actually test that makes sense, right? Which it is aligned to what BDD does, right? You build the test first, but that's a That's more about how we think about building the software. But what I'm talking about is making sure that we're testing the right things, right?
Yep, testing the right thing and also ensuring that we do have the right decision about architecture. Like if I'm building an application which needs to deal with a lot of data and that is having a lot of AI or algorithm, I can't choose a stack which doesn't support all the future updates or enhancement. So I have to be very careful in choosing the database, the tech stack, the programming language, and everything.
Well, that's true. Yes, the having solid foundations so you
Yeah,
can build the future features.
proof
It's more important. Yeah, future proof the application.
application.
Yes. How have you seen, test automation and quality assurance in the world of AI when we have this non-deterministic process?
Hmm.
How can we make sure that this non-deterministic process would actually deliver the expected behavior that we want?
Yeah, so I think if I had to be honest, I think these all automations, like whether it is like testing the usability, testing the functionality, or testing the security, compliance, or load testing, I think these all tools have made our life way easier. We don't need to have a dedicated human sitting to test all the user flows and everything. We can just automate these flows or do the scripting one time. And next time, if I'm releasing a new release, I can just hit the button, run the test cases. If all green lights, it's good to go to the release. If anything is broken, it will just alert me, you need to be careful. A human can miss some of these cases, but I guess these automations, they can't miss anything. So, but you have to keep them up to date, like whatever new features, or at least your sanity checklist or the code feature, which is the backbone of the application. They should always be automated in terms of look and feel, in terms of code features, backend. And if your application is heavy on the user side, like you have a lot of user and it gets slow during the peak timings, you can do the load testing using the load runner and some other tools. If your application is compliance and security heavy, like you're working in fintech, banking, or healthcare, you need to make sure there is no gap on the security or compliance side. So you can use these tools to pen test your application end to end. If there is any vulnerability or any issue, it can pre-highlight before it goes to the production. So I think AI and these tools are making our life easier and it's making less dependent on the human. We can keep the human in the loop, but still like it's making the life easier.
Right. Yeah, the automation that we're getting now are amazing, and we're getting better and better tools to automate and make sure that what we're building makes sense. And I've seen leaps of improvement throughout the years.
Yeah.
I started coding with ASP. You mentioned .NET. I started with ASP. I helped launch .NET and all the other languages back in 2000 something in Argentina. I was working at Microsoft, so I was part of that movement. And all of this was in an era that was before we had a strong nonlinear revision system, right? I don't know if you remember, you had to check in and check out files so you could make changes.
I remember a bit of ASP, like where you have to embed tag inside the HTML and you have to manage
Yes.
memory, you have to manage sessions. Every new page you have to manage the state of the page as well where you left off. And I think it was a lot of pain at that time to even to do the simple pagination for a logged in user. It was sorting on simple tabular form. It was a lot of job at that time.
Yes, it was hard to it was similar to what PHP is now.
Yeah,
To where it's kind of spaghetti code. You just have HTML code, SQL, all of that together, right? We come from that. We would actually make changes on the file on the fly, and you would see the changes real time, similar to PHP.
yeah.
Now that we have versioning control, we have CI, CD, we have so many tools that help us automate the workflow and make sure that what we're building actually it's safe to launch.
Yeah, I think now we have the luxury that if I'm releasing a new piece of code, I can link my pipeline with SonarQube or any other code review. It can test the code quality. It can alert me. Then I can link it with our test automation pipeline. It can tell me how many test cases are passed or if any of them failing. It can deploy, and even after the deployment, if something is broken, it can roll back to the previous stable build. So back in the days, this was all manual, but I think these all things have made the things possible, more reliable, and more robust now.
How do you work with to make sure that the requirements are clear throughout the whole process to make sure
Mhm.
that the developer understand the whole context in order to build the software, right?
Yeah. So I think this process start, Federico, at pre-sale stage. So we have discovery sessions. So during the discovery session, we try to understand like, okay, what is the core, first of all, idea? And are you trying to build something new? Are you trying to build a competitor application? And if you are building a competitor application, what is the ROI? How your idea is better than the existing? Like if I say, I want to build clone of DoorDash or Uber. So why? This is already there until I'm offering something different. And then like what are the core features? Who are the core users? What is the look and feel? What kind of like hosting do we need? Is it going to be on-prem, on cloud, or is it going to be hybrid? What kind of technology preference do we have? Talking about the look and feel, is it going to be a mobile application, desktop or web-based application, or is it going to be just a backend utility? So we try to capture all these points. Then we have a team of business analysts and product owners who try to format into a complete roadmap. And then once we log that with the customer, we're on the same page. Then we try to do some user flow diagrams. We try to do some architecture diagram. We also build some flow diagram. So we have the clear understanding on all the flows. And when it comes to the development or execution team, normally our team consists of a scrum master who is the, you can say, captain of the ship, or the project leader who leads and responsible for deliverables. And then we have a mix of team depending on the requirement. It can be front end, back end, or mobile engineer, including a partial QA and a DevOps. So that team try to follow Agile. So what they will do, they will pick up first of all the very first sprint. They will try to define the epics. Under the epics, they will try to define user stories and all the tasks. And this will all happen in the sprint planning meeting with the customer and taking all the feedback from customer side, from the internal team. They try to groom the stories and tasks as much as possible. Then they try to estimate those based on story points. And then throughout the sprint, when they make progress, they keep logging their input or day-to-day progress. That shows the complete burn-on chart. So I think this is a very systematic process. And then the continuous feedback that is coming through the Trello or Jira or whatever, Monday.com or Asana we are using. So having all the right stakeholder on that and everyone is seeing, okay, at the end of the sprint, how many story points I have delivered, what is the open rate, what is the bug rate, and who is doing best, who is not doing best. And then also getting the core reports from code review tools like SonarCube. So mixing of all these parameters ensure the quality. If there are any gaps or there is any improvement needed, we try to like fill those gaps. I'm not saying it's always 100% success, but these are the processes and measurement that help us to reduce the requirement gap.
Right, right. I think that that process is I've been on those processes, and it's a very well thought out process. Going through being able to process requirements before they get to developers, getting the Scrum Master to coordinate everything, and then having a QA involved. So whatever we're launching, it's verified. I think it becomes important. The other thing I learned to appreciate more is the definition of done and acceptance criteria, because most of the developers, especially the juniors, they say, but I've seen it on seniors as well, they say, it works on my computer, right? So that's great, but it needs to work here, right? So having a mature definition of them becomes much more important, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that comes to the, again, basic that you need to have a well-defined user story. You need to have a grooming session. A user story should be telling like what a user is able to perform after this feature is delivered. And definition of done, DoD is very important part of that. And also along with that, we need to define priority, any kind of dependency it can have, and then who is the owner and any kind of reference example. So putting those all these like attributes to a user story, and I think this is where the product owner role is very critical. whether it is played by a customer or in-house team, they play a critical role that they need to delegate it properly, right? And I see there is a gap sometime here come as well that a product owner, whether it's a customer or it's in-house team, if they are not able to fully elaborate the user story, the developer is already looking for shortcut to the point things. They will not ask sometime question as well. They will just say, okay, my job is just to write the code. I'm not going to like ask for any clarification and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right, right. One thing that that stood out when you were explaining your process is that you're doing the handoff between the pre-sales and then the technical team, because I've seen projects like where the sales team overpromise and then the technical team has to figure out how to build, and that usually affects the quality. But in your case of having that handoff, so then the Scrum Master and the Scrum team can work towards the requirements and making sure that do the grooming backlog and making sure that they can make a commitment that it's achievable, right? And doing it with the client, I think that becomes much more important, right?
Yep. I mean, still we try to involve sometime our execution team in pre-sale as well when the things really become critical to ensure they are comfortable and they understand, and we make them part of like at least the commitments that we are making. So it's not something like totally new for them that we just tell them, okay, do this. We have closed already. So they are somewhat part, like 10-20% already during these, especially technical discussions. So they are comfortable when they are executing.
Right. Right. I wanted to ask you a question about other topic. What is the biggest mistake you've seen companies make when they're hiring a software development partner?
Yeah, so what I have seen that there are like multiple scenarios, but one thing I have seen that they are not looking for the right expertise in that particular industry. Like if I give example, like if one of my customer, they were looking to build a claims engine in the medical stuff. So they try to hire a team who are technical enough, but they don't understand the industry jargons, like how this industry works, what are the compliances, how the things move from one place to other thing. And I have seen personally, like the client spent over 6 months just to explain the core business logic, and it was just time wastage. And I think when you are deciding the right vendor, you also need to see the relevant work history and experience in that industry. That can be a plus game because they have already gone through that pain. They know the jargons, and that will save you a lot of time at the time of launch or production. Maybe you're missing some critical part. So that is one of the main reasons that I have seen that should be part of the decision making.
Right. Right. And how do you help a client who has a great idea but is not sure where to start?
I think there are two type of like clients. One is technical, other is non-technical. Some people, the one who are technical, they are well known and they come mostly prepared. What kind of tech, what kind of like architecture they want you to go with. So they have done their homework. So it's easier for them. But on the other hand, the one who are not technical but they have a great idea. So we try to help them through different diagramming, through different prototypes, POCs, visuals, so they understand what the end product will look like. And before we lock the deal, we want to make sure they are comfortable and we are on the same page. We are not making any commitments which we can't deliver on a later stage. So having those like different visuals, it can be low fidelity diagrams, low fidelity mockups. It can be visual like flow diagrams or architecture diagram that can help those founders or clients to understand what they are going to get in terms of final output. And they can refine on top of that as well.
Right, right. I usually joke about this idea that there is no debris in software, right? I mean, we build something, and if we have to rebuild it, there is no debris, right? So, but if you build a house and you put the wall in the right position, you have to tear it apart and put it again. Now you see the debris, right? So I think that starting with mockups and having the blueprints of the application basically goes a long way to make sure that by the time the teams start coding, they have a clear understanding of what they need to build, right? because that means that they can just hit the floor running because now they have all the requirements. There's no back and forth. There's no, tell me more. It's just, this is what we need. This is why, go for it, right? And what difference have you seen on working with startups and working with bigger enterprise clients in the way they build software?
Yep. I think startups, they have certain timelines in their mind. They want you to go quick to the market. They are always working on some new ideas, and working with startup is always innovative because they are trying to solve some good problems. Yeah, so these are the things that I have seen with the startup. But if I talk about enterprises, they move a bit slow, but they are pretty organized. And they are heavy on compliances, on security side, on processes side, and they love these kind of thing. I mean, they wanted to make sure that whoever vendor they are working with, they are well organized and they are adaptable to their practice. And sometimes some vendor have training programs or onboarding program that you have to go through in terms of their security, compliances, or certain processes they want to follow. So yeah, that's the main difference I have seen working with enterprises versus the startup.
Right, right. Yeah, I've seen similar things with bigger enterprise. They move slower, but they expect higher quality on the product, on the software we built. We have compliance, we have a little bit more of red tape, thorough testing before it goes live, right? But once it goes live, they scale it up much more, right? So they they want to make sure that there are no failures on the new feature that we build.
Yeah, they want to move slow, but they want to make sure that things are stable. But in case of startup, they want to just release, they want to keep pivoting, they want to keep experimenting, release, take feedback, keep pivoting, and move on.
Right. Right. Yeah. On startups, what I've seen happen on my experience is they want to take shortcuts, which sometimes we can, but sometimes I have to push back on saying we can, but it's, but we have all this risk if we do that, right? Whether
Yeah,
it's security or performance or whatever, right? And I feel that I should highlight those because it could be a blind
yeah.
spot because they have the date on their, in front of their mind. It's like, we have to launch this set of features by this date,
Hmm.
right? At
Yeah.
whatever it costs, right? And I sometimes try to push back and say, well, yes, we can work on that, but not at whatever cost. And, we need to make sure that it's safe, that it's reliable, that it's stable, right? As much as possible, right?
I think budgeting is another issue. A startup have certain budget limits and they need to play within that. And in case of enterprises, though they have allocated budget, but in order to achieve that certain level of quality, it's negotiable that we can extend the budget accordingly.
Right. When a client asks me, can you build this stuff, whatever it is,
Hmm.
I'm like, yes, with infinite budget, I can build anything. Now, what's your budget,
Yeah.
right? And then we talk about budget, right? Yeah. And then with that budget, then we can figure out, okay, how much of whatever they want to achieve we can build, right? So how do you think AI has changed the way companies are building
Yeah. So I think starting from 2023, it was all about prompt engineering. Then came 2024, 2025, it became about vibe coding. And now we are talking about agentic, that having a team like of developers, which consists of some like human or base developer and some agentic developers working in parallel. So things are changing quite drastic, like quite rapidly. And I think nowadays software development is all about adopting these tools, ensuring that we are taking the maximum leverage. And if we do it right way, an engineer can do 10x productivity, where we need to have a complete set team of engineers. Now we can use these tools, and I think it can really expedite the output.
Right, right. I interviewed an engineer manager. She said that she spent more time reading code that agents wrote than
Yeah.
writing code herself, right? Which is aligned to what you're talking about.
And I think this is the future that we need to be adaptive accordingly, especially with the latest release of Anthropic Claude Code. I mean, you can launch multiple agents and sub agents, and you can define certain tasks per feature for them, and it can build your skills for certain part as well that are reusable, and that can be your templates as well, that you can launch a new project, and if you want to have the same skill like for payment integration or SSO, you can reuse those kind of skills as well. But on the other hand, you also need to make sure the compliance and security part is really taken seriously. We can't give everything on the AI end. We need to have human in the loop because we PureLogics works a lot in the healthcare. So the security, the HIPAA compliances, and all these different security protocols that we have to follow, we make sure that they are not being overlooked and there are no vulnerabilities in terms of like uh, prompt injection or anything else that can cause a lot of issue at a later stage.
Well, I see. Yes, the prompt injection is becoming an issue now,
Yeah,
particularly in HIPAA compliant projects where
yeah,
the amount of information that we can expose, we have to follow the compliance, right? And we cannot expose patient information that they're not supposed to access to. There's so many things like that we need to take care of, right?
yeah. And HIPAA is like it has four major rule. One is the privacy rule. The second one is security. The third one is enforcement, and the last one is breach notification rule. The privacy rule says that as a developer, I can't see any patient's data without context. Even if I'm troubleshooting and I need to see if something is going not okay with the patient information. The second rule is security rule. We need to have all the best practices for security part. And then the enforcement rule that we need to ensure that we have the HIPAA rules and policies enforced on the server side, database side, code side. And if there is any breach, any kind of vulnerability, it is being notified and rectified at the right time. So if we consider that in terms of like if we give everything to the agent to write the code and architecture, I think there will be a lot of vulnerabilities. So the human has to be part of the loop to ensure that we are covering HIPAA end to end.
Right, right. I think that's where the guardrails becomes much more important for models, right? We
Yes.
have to be more strict on that. Yeah, yeah. I built a HIPAA compliant project, and
Mm-hmm.
from idea to launch,
Mm-hmm.
I worked through the. We had to encrypt the memory of the database to make sure that no data was exposed, and then put audits logs to make
Mm-hmm.
sure who would have access to the servers, right? So because as a developers, we needed to have access to the servers for troubleshooting, but we had to log every time we were in it had to be logged to remote servers, so we could have a documentation that who had access, when, where, and why, right? And then I had to write the BAA, the Business Associated Agreement, to make sure that we were compliant. And then we passed the audit on the first time, which was amazing.
Great, great, awesome. Yeah, and I think when you are implementing the AI, like in any kind of application, you need to make sure that the NIST and OSAP and some other risk management framework for LLMs and AI, they are being followed. We have seen cases like the bank staff is like putting all the like sensitive customer data into the personal GPT accounts and taking the decision. Or if as a developer, like if I'm coding and I try to like paste any sensitive coding or customer data into GPT, personal GPT, and try to get some suggestion on top of that. So we need to have proper security guardrails. First of all, we need to have enterprise level or team level accounts with these GPT accounts, and then we need to have policies defined who is using what kind of vibe or agentic to help them in the engineering, and what is the percentage being used if they are sharing any sensitive data. So we need to have moderator and we need to have some defined processes using this AI. It's same like the way people are buying, uh, personal Mac minis for deploying Claude Code work, so it can work its own. They are not deploying it directly on their like first computer because they they are aware that it can uh, like steal any other information or can do any prompt injection. So we have to have like certain policies. I can say it's AI policy, AI engineering policy at organizational level, and it should be adopted with all the security guardrails.
Right. You're talking about sandbox environments.
Sandbox or team environment, like if you are a project manager, you can see on your healthcare application, there are 4 engineers working and there are 2 boards. How much agentic code they are writing, how much code is writing by them, and for what purpose they are using, what kind of commands they are giving. So you have full visibility on the admin control, whether you are using Claude or Anthropic or maybe Cursor or any other tool. So all these dashboards come with the team package that you can monitor your team's performance, usability, and all these parameters.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Talking about developers managing agents, writing code, I've been trying to figure out this. So how much is using agents an augmentation, and when it's become a crutch, right? That people use it instead of, so they look like they know their stuff, but in reality they're over relying on an agent or a model to come up with the answers, right? At what point do you feel that the developers are, go from driving to the backseat?
I think we are already seeing this is happening, and this is where a lot of tech debt is being added. And the example you were giving, that one of your engineer you were interviewing, telling you that they spend more time to see the code written by these agents instead of writing their own code. Uh, but it has become a new way of working. So I think engineers are these architects. They need to adopt, and they need to make sure that whatever code is being generated through Vibe or agentic, it's to the point, and they are not adding too much garbage or tech debt to the end product, and they are not relying on that, and that can cause a lot of compliances, security, or performance issues even, on certain PCs or certain complex functionalities.
Right. We had the experience of working in these lowly automated environments where if you make the wrong move, everything breaks, right? With
Yeah.
.NET, with PHP, with ASP, we have those issues, right? Or no versioning, right? Which was the other issue. So we have that experience of understanding what we need to build, or reading a function and understand that is very inefficient. So I think that, to your point, the developers should be able to review the code and be accountable for the code that they generate through the agents as
Yes.
well, right?
At the day end, developer has to take the ownership. They need to be responsible for the end deliverables.
Right. Right. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they wrote it themselves or the agent. It's just about that they are the owner, right?
Yeah. And this is where, defining the AI policy, we need to make these things clear. The role of agentic or vibe coding versus what is the role of the developer? Who is the end, auditable or answerable of the end product?
Right. Right. Yes. I do the same with my, so for instance, if I write a piece of code, I can provide the agent the instructions of what I want to build and what I want to achieve, right? If I ask the agent how, then the agent could go, we can spend a lot of talking trying to figure out why. And the answer I'm going to get is going to be very generic that might not apply to my particular problem, right? That's where I think that we are using the agent as a crutch instead of we leading, right? So what is one leadership lesson that you learned throughout your career that that you could share with our audience?
Yeah. So I think what I will say, that don't optimize for performance before you fully understand the constraint. Sometimes we try to start optimization too early, and that can not lead to the right results. And yeah, I think this is the one of the lesson that I have learned.
Amazing. What advice would you give to a founder that is trying to launch their first product?
Yeah, so I think I will give the same advice we have learned from the lean startup, that try to focus on the core problem and try to deliver that, then keep pivoting and keep iteration based on the real customer feedback. Don't try to build everything or extra features that are not required. Just focus on the core problem or core feature that the problem is solving. Just focus on that, deliver that, launch, go to the market, and then keep repeating.
Right, right. Yeah, I read the book, the Lean Startup book. It's amazing, and this idea of validate, validate, validate.
Yeah.
It's I have to
I
repeat
have
it
seen
myself. Yeah,
some founders, they try to build all the bell and whistle in the initial shipment, and sometimes they just go defocused and end up wasting a lot of time and money. And at the day end, like sometimes they start blaming the like engineering partner as well on that part. So I think that is the thing that they need to keep their focus sharp on the core problem first.
Right, right. And moving through validation becomes much more important, right? Because we want to build. I mean, I love building, so I usually get distracted by building, and I get into that situation where I build more than it was necessary to
Yeah,
prove that it was, to validate that
yeah.
there is a need for this.
Yeah, they need to find the right market right fit. If it works, if it solves the problem, then they keep adding the features based on the real customer feedback.
Right, right. Yeah, and great product owners can help on that, on understanding what are the once you find a product market fit, once you have a little bit of traction, product owners can help you on understanding what is your user base and what they want to build, what they want you to build next.
Yep, great.
So one last question before we wrap it up. What advice would you give to your younger self at the start of your career?
Yeah, so I think the advice that I will give is it can be related to like specific engineering, or it can be anything.
It's your career, so it can be about what you feel best.
Yeah, I think the advice is that don't look for shortcuts. It's try to play a stable long-term game, and yeah, I think there are certain things that comes on the time. So try to be patient. Yeah,
Amazing. Hamad, I'm truly honored to have you here today. I know we're running out of time, so I wanted to wrap it up. Uh, but I'm honored and thankful for having you here today. Any final remarks before we wrap it up?
thank you, Federico. It was nice to talk to you. I think this was really helpful conversation to unfold that how this whole journey started and what are the current challenges with the AI and everything. So yeah, looking forward to have more in-depth conversation in the future if we get the time.
That would be lovely. I'm looking forward to that. And we're going to leave the links for PureLogics and your LinkedIn profile on the description so people can reach out and connect with you.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Federico.